Good morning, everybody. Are you ready for our live crochet together? Well, today, oops, I forgot to tell you, this is Sarah, and it's time for Coffee and Crochet with Sarah. And so what we're doing today is we're going to do a live crochet together. And what that means is we're going to crochet something together live. So if I make a few mistakes, just, like if I say the wrong word or at the wrong time or whatever, just ignore it and watch what I'm doing, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is, if you don't know this, like I said, this is a live crochet together, and you need to get this graph. And we're going to learn how to read a simple graph, how to change colors, how to carry your yarns, and just a few simple steps like that that will help you. And this has been called graph crochet, pixel graph. The more intricate ones are called tapestry crochet, and it's really based off the same principles. So I thought we would use this simple graph and crochet together a simple coaster. All right. Now, before we do that, though, I want everyone to get in here and give them a few minutes. And so we're going to reverse what we usually do. So I'm going to show you first what happened this week at Posh Pooch Designs with crochet patterns and videos. And if you look behind me on this side, that's our Whispering Pines scarf. And we put that video out this week. It was a pattern I wrote a few years ago. We updated the video and we added new pictures to the blog. And you can find that on my blog. You can find it on Ravelry. And of course, you can find it on YouTube. All right. The other thing that we did was this Scrap Happy beanie. And I love this pattern. Another one I wrote a few years ago, so we decided to update it. And if you look back here at my girl, her hair's in her face, that one is gray with bright colors. This one I did in fall colors. You can choose colors that you want to do, but the idea of this beanie is to make a simple beanie that's super easy to adjust to any size, and stripe it with all your leftover yarns and come up with some really pretty beanies. Now, the original beanie that I wrote for this, the idea was to use up your leftover yarns, make these beanies, and then donate them to rescues, especially ones that have children. This beanie, if you make it according to the pattern, will fit a 22 to 24 inch head. Keep in mind, beanies are very stretchy. But it's super easy to make it smaller by adjusting the band. And these are just simple rows of double crochet and single crochet. And so it makes a nice beanie to give, because the weather's going to be turning cool soon. Hopefully. I like cold weather. But anyway, it's a great beanie to use up your scraps and also to donate to homeless and rescue missions. Okay, that was the idea of the original beanie when we designed it. All right, I'm going to set that aside. And then the other thing we did this week was our Chunky Bloom Cowl. And this is the Chunky Bloom Cowl. We added a little bow there. It's super pretty, and you can see how it's a striping floral yarn, and it gives the appearance of flowers. And someone said, oh, that looks like Easter. Well, now it's a chunky yarn. I don't think it'll work for Easter unless you live in a really cold area. And let me show you real quick that yarn. This is it. It's called Chunky Bloom. It's a chunky yarn number 5, and it works up really fast. I'm hoping to be able to get a hat to match this to go together. And so we did that this week. And again, all my patterns that I show you, you can find them on my blog. And you can find that blog if you're on Posh Pooch Designs Facebook page, just by going over to the side, hitting that about, and it'll have my blog link there, also my YouTube link, as well as, no, I don't think my Ravelry link's there, but you can always find me on Ravelry as well. All right, so I wanted to get that out of the way first, give people time to get in here, and then we're going to do our crochet together. So just a reminder, make sure you have the graph. If you don't have the graph, it's okay. You can always get it later because this is really easy. All right, are you ready to get started in our crochet together? We have to clink in first. Almost forgot again. Can't believe it. All righty, so let's go ahead and clink in first. This is one of my Colorado mugs. My daughter bought this for me a few years ago, and I guess about 9 years ago when we first moved here from Starbucks. Isn't that cute? And you know, we're still having those fires. It was so fiery, I mean, so smoky yesterday. My eyes were just on fire. So we need to pray we get those fires out. And there's horrible fires in California as well. And so we need to get those fires out. So, clinkety, clink, clink, and super duper clink. All right, let's get started with our crochet together. I'm going to clink over to the other camera so you can see what I'm doing. And just to give you a quick overview, this, of course, is a little coffee cup with a little bit of steam coming out. And this is what we're going to make. And what I'm going to show you, this is a single crochet stitch. We're going to be crocheting in rows. And what I'm going to show you is, of course, how to do the graph. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to show you how to carry your yarns. So when you're using yarns, say I only have two I have to weave in here. I only have the beginning and the end where I'll have to weave in for my pink, and then for the white, I only have one here and one here. And I'm going to show you how to change colors, carry your yarn, and all of those things. Now, what you're going to need is, of course, the graph. You're going to need an H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. And you're going to need 3 colors of yarn. I'm going to be using white, where I used white on these for the outside. I'm going to do my cup in this bright orange. I think it'd be really pretty. And then I'm going to use this, it's sort of a variegated dark brown, for the little smoke that's coming out. Or I guess it's steam, not smoke, coming out of our cup. All right? You're going to need your scissors, and then you'll also need a needle to weave in those ends. All right, so let's move our yarn out of the way, and let's talk just a smidge about the graph, and we'll get started. So I have a graph here. You can see it has 13 blocks wide and 13 blocks down. All right? And we're going to be stitching in single crochet. And when you do that, you want to make sure that you chain one more than what the graph shows on the blocks, because you're going to begin in the second chain from the hook. And then as we read our graph, we're going to start over here, and we'll work this way, and then we'll take and go this way. And you'll be going back and forth, turning your work. Now, I have a friend who is left-handed. She does her graphs backwards, and she still makes beautiful graphs. So if you're left-handed and you want to read it the other direction, if it's more comfortable for you, that is totally fine. The main thing is to keep track of where your front and your back is on your project, so we get those strings pulled to the right side. All right, let's get started. Now I will tell you this may take a little longer than some of our other crochet togethers, because we're going to do the completed project. All right, so here's my graph. I have 13 squares, so I need to chain 14, and I just wrote it on there. All right, I'm going to move this up just a little so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll pull the graph back down. All right, so I'm going to make my slip knot, and I'm going to chain 14 chains. And remember, don't chain this too tightly, or you'll have one end of your coaster that's a little bit puckered up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. All right, so let's bring our graph back down. I chained my 14. And so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then we're going to stitch a single crochet, get that graph out of the way there, in each of the stitches across. Okay, so we don't ever count the loop on our hook. There's our first one, so we'll go in our second chain and stitch a single crochet. We'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. And so now we're just stitching one single crochet in each of the chains across. Now, I am using cotton because I prefer cotton for coasters, but sometimes I do make them out of acrylic. And if you want to do this project out of acrylic, you certainly can, even if you just want to do it just to test out your skills. All right, so let's make sure that I have 13 chains. And this is also a good place to make sure that your chain isn't pulling. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, so there's my first row. And so, oops, let's turn it the right direction here. And so what I'll do is I'll make a little X or a mark, and that told me I did my first row across. And that's how I keep track. I just make a little X on the end of each row. All right, so I want to get my next color ready because we're only going to do 2 stitches, and then we're going to then we're going to change to the next color. So here's my first row right here. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And this tells me I need to do 2 stitches in white and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the color I've chosen for my coffee cup. And I'm going to use this orange. So I'm going to move my paper back up out of the way. And I'm going to show you how to change colors so that you get a nice, neat appearance. All right, so our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we're going to go right in our first single crochet. Then we'll go in our next because we need 2. But I'm not going to finish that single crochet. I'm going to bring in my next color. All right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch over the white yarn. That's called carrying the yarn. And we'll stitch those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 orange or whatever color you're using for your coffee cup. So we'll go in and stitch our single crochet, and I'm stitching over my white yarn. And this is called carrying your yarn across. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to take out that last stitch because we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to switch back to our white. So I'm going to go in and pull up my orange loop, but I'm going to let my orange drop and bring in my white. Now, this is the front of my work, so I'm dropping my orange to the back. Okay, and so now I need to remember to always pull my yarns to the back of my work. All right, so now I'm going to do those 4 white single crochets. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to bring that down so that you can see exactly what I've done. All right, so now this is the way that I did my work. All right, so that you can see that last row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for my coffee cup, and then 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so I'm going to put an X here because that tells me I did that row. All right, and I turned my work, and so now I'm going to do this third row. And on this third row, I need 2 white, and then I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of my coffee cup color, and then 1 more white. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to stitch those 2 white ones, so 1, and 2, but I'm going to bring back in my orange. All right, so we're going to pull that in. Okay. We want to make sure, let me do this better for you so you can see this. We want to make sure that we pull this white to the back of our work, or you end up with your white string on the front. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my orange and finish that stitch. And so, because we have 2 stitches here where this is brought over, we're going to stitch over that and over the white one, okay? So we'll go in and stitch our single crochet, and then we'll go ahead and stitch over that, because those are the 2 that's starting the handle of our cup right here. And now we'll stitch across our coffee cup. All right, so again, we're going to stitch over our white yarn. All right, now we're going to go in. We're going to bring our orange to the back of our work. And the way to remember which is your front and back is where you left that tail when you brought in that color, okay? All right, so we're going to finish with that white. We'll make our last stitch and chain 1. And I'm going to go ahead and turn. And this happens because I didn't pull my string tight enough when I was stitching over. All right, and it's really easy to fix. You just go in and pull that loop to the back. Okay? All right, so now I've completed my next row. And you don't have to mark your graphs like this. I do it because I get lost sometimes when I'm working on a graph. All right, now let's just look at it real quick. Here's our 2 stitches over here because we stitched it this way. Here's all our orange stitches that I did for our cup, and then 1. Now, if you get a little bloop like that, like I said, you can pull it to the back, and then when you weave it in, you can always grab that. All right, so now we're going to do the next row. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is where it gets a little tricky because we're going to go white, then orange, then 2 white, and then orange across, and then white. All right, so you're going to have your yarns up there ready to go. I'm going to move this out of the way again. All right, so the first one is white, but we're going to be changing to orange. So we're going to bring that orange in, finish that stitch, and stitch an orange one. But we're only stitching 1 orange, so we're going to finish with the white. Make sure you pull that stitch. That's what I did here, is I didn't pull my white tight enough. All right, so we're going to do 2 white stitches. So we'll do 1, then we'll do the next one, and finish with the orange. And this gives you a complete stitch. If I would have gone ahead and did this stitch here with the orange, we would have a loop of orange right there, and it wouldn't make a nice even stitch. All right, so now we're going to stitch over that white one as we trail it along the back, and I'm going to do better at making sure that I pull it a little bit snugger. It's kind of a game. You have to make sure that you pull it tight enough, but also you want to make sure that you don't pull it too tight and cause it to bunch up. All right. All righty. So this one, it looks like I got a little snag in my orange here. There we go. All right. So now we did 1 white, we did 1 orange, we did 2 white, and now we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I need to finish off that last stitch with the white, and then stitch 1 single crochet in those last 2. And see, we're starting to see the bottom of our cup take shape. And I'm going to mark this one because that told me that I finished the 4th row. All right, now we're going to do the 5th row. We're going to do 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we'll do 2, 1, and 2, just like we did on this last row. All right, so chain 1 and turn, making sure that I keep my strings to the back. And again, your clue to knowing which is your front and back is where you started with your second color. All right, so I actually read that wrong, didn't I? Let's see, 1, 2. I should only have 1. Let's look back and see where I messed up on this one. Okay. There we go. Whoops. There we go. We should only have 1 right here. Not 2. See, just 1. All right, now we'll chain 1 and turn. All right, so we're going to repeat what we did. We'll start on this side and go this way. 1 single crochet, and then we'll change to orange. Excuse my rough voice. The smoke in the air has actually caused me to have quite the rough voice. All right, so then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me move this up so you can see a little better. There we go. 5, 6, 7. We're going to change on the 8th, so we'll bring in the white. We'll have 2 white ones, so 1. And you'll also notice when I'm doing the white ones, I'm also carrying my orange in the back. All right, now we're going to change to orange, so we'll change to orange, do 1 orange, then change back to white, and do that last white stitch. Except I needed to bring my orange to the back. There we go. Chain 1 and turn. So here's our little handle forming. All right, so we're going to repeat what we just did one more time. But let me mark this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is where we're going to be working here. All right, so we'll just repeat what we just did. Making sure we keep our yarns to the back. We're going to stitch over them. And making sure we remember the front from the back. All right, so 1 white, 1 orange, 2 white, 1, 2, switching to my orange. And you will notice that your yarn will get a little bit twisted, and that happens, can't be avoided. All right, so now I'm going to do the orange across. Whoops. Make sure we pull that yarn that we're stitching over a little bit snugly. We don't want any little bumps. Pull this out. Alrighty, now we're to the end of the row. We're going to change to our white, keeping our orange to the back, or whatever color that you're working with. And do our last single crochet and chain 1 and turn. All right, now let's look here. Let's see. This is the row we just completed. Now we're going to do the row with the handle. So we're only going to have one white. The rest are all going to be the cup color and then one white. And you see you're moving back and forth, keeping track of your front and your back, and stitching over your yarns, which makes a much neater appearance, of course, and changing colors at the last two loops of the previous stitch. All right, so this is our back. We're going to stitch one single crochet in white, bring our yarn to the back, because remember, this little tail where we started tells us where our back is. All right, then we'll bring our orange through. And yes, cotton yarn can be a little bit splitty sometimes. All right, now we want to make sure we stitch in that first single crochet there of our color. And now we're going to stitch all the way across till we reach that last single crochet. I will tell you if I'm going too fast. After we're done here, I always put it on YouTube, and you can always slow it down a little bit and pause it as needed on YouTube. So I thought I would let you know that as well, because I know this will probably be a little bit longer than we normally do on a video, but I wanted to do this live because I had a lot of questions about color changing, how do we know the front and the back, and things like that. All right, so I'm changing to my white and stitching that one single crochet, chain one, and made sure I pulled my orange yarn to the back. All right, so there's our handle. All right, let's look back at our graph, mark it. And so now we're going to do this row. So we'll have 4 white ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from our cup color, and then 1. All right, we ended up over here on the side where our cup handle is. So we're going to do 4 single crochets in white. So remember to stitch over your orange. Let me move my pen there. Twisted. There we go. 1. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to change to my orange, pull my white to the back, and stitch over and carry our yarn. There we go. All right, now we're to our last row of our orange. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my white in. I'm going to cut that orange off since it's all twisted. There we go. Let that drop, and then we'll just do our last stitch in white. Now, there's the cup portion. We finished this row, and now we're going to be doing lots of white, but we're going to bring in a beige to use for our steam. And this, I'm using a little bit browner. You can use a lighter one if you want to, but I'm just using that one. I want it to show up well. Okay, so on this next row, we're over here on this end, so we're over here. We'll do 3 white, we'll do 1 brown, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in white for the background of our coaster. So I've got my new color ready to go. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to stitch 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pull my white to the back, and I'm going to bring in my beige. Okay, make sure we pull that string to the back, and I'm only going to stitch 1. So I'm going to go in, pull up a loop, pull this to the back, snug that down, because remember, we want our strings to go to the back, and we'll just grab that white, finish that stitch, and then we'll stitch on across in our white yarn. Once you've gotten this far, I think you've got an understanding of how to change colors, and the rest of this should be relatively easy. All right, so let's turn it over. Here's our front. We stitched all those white ones with just one dark color because that's our steam. All right, mark that row. Whoops. All right, so our next row, we're moving this way. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we'll do brown, white, brown, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now, one other thing, when I first started doing graphs, I used to X off every block. And if you have to do that to help you keep track, that is totally fine too. You need to do what helps you stay on track. Okay? All right, let's do these next couple of rows. We're almost finished. So I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in my white color for my background. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's my 6th one. So I'm going to grab this brown, and you'll notice I'm carrying it back across because I'm way over there. So we're going to pull that, let that droop just a little. Make sure we're on the back there. We're going to stitch over that white one. Bring up our white. Stitch 1 in white. Bring our brown back. Stitch 1 in the brown. There we go. Bring our white back. Drop our brown to the back. And then we'll stitch the rest of the way in our white. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And chain 1. And see how that looks? And that was this one. Now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're almost done. All right, so we're going to turn. This is our back. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's our 7th one. We're going to bring our white yarn to the back, grab that brown yarn, finish that single crochet, and you'll notice how I'm stitching around that white. Then we'll bring our brown to the back, finish that single crochet, and then finish across. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And chain 1. All right, so this next one, we're going to put it here. Okay, so we'll go back across with our white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go in that brown one, bring up the brown from the back, finish the single crochet, stitch 1 with the brown, finish it with the white, and we're done with that brown. So we're going to go ahead and clip that off out of the way, snug it down, and we'll snug it down more when we do our weaving in. All right, so I'm going to stitch across, finishing up with my white. And we can mark these two because I just did those two. And the last one is 1 row across of just white, which is our background color. Set that up there. Chain 1 and turn. All right, so now we're just stitching 1 single crochet in each of those single crochets across. Now I'm doing this graph all in single crochets. You could work this graph with C2C, which is corner to corner. You could do block stitch. You could do half double crochets, and you can even do double crochets. Any pattern that has a ability to do a block type stitch, so that you get even stitches, I guess I should say, so that you can make the graph. And it's up to you. I like doing single crochet because it brings it in nice and tight. All right, so the last thing we have to do is just stitch an even row of single crochet all the way around all four sides of our coaster, because now this is the perfect size for a coaster. I think these would be so much fun to make if you're going to have a tea party or a coffee party or just a get together, and then you could give each one of these to each one of your guests to use while they're there and take home with them as a gift. All right, well, you know how to single crochet evenly around. When I'm doing a small item like this, I'll put those 2 single crochets in the corners, and then with single crochet it's super easy because you can just put 1 single crochet in the end of each on the sides, and do try to go in the stitches and not the holes, or you'll end up with big gaping holes. So the other thing I wanted to show you, because I know you know how to single crochet around something, is that when we're finished, I'm going to grab this pink one just so that it's completely done. When you're finished, you just have where you began and started your brown yarn, where you began and started your cup color yarn, and your whites, and so, or whatever color you're using for your background. And so then you can easily just weave that in with your needle. Shove that in there and get that thread. Come on. Cotton, sometimes if you fan out the end of it like this, it'll go in that needle much better. I should have done that. There we go. Okay, so get in there. All right, and so it makes it just a lot easier to weave in. Just make sure when you're doing something like this that you stay in the color that you're doing, because you don't want some of that brown like maybe to show through down here or something. And the same thing with the pink. You want to stay within that. And all you have to do is weave that in. And it's the perfect size for a coaster. Alrighty. I know this was a little bit longer video, but I wanted to go over those things. Learning to remember which side is the front and back. Learning to remember how to change colors, and also how to carry your yarn. Those are things that will keep you from having to do extra work, like weaving in your ends on every row, as well as a much neater appearance. The less stuff you have to do on the back, the better that it's going to lay. And I know this was a super simple pattern, but I really want you to practice, and I have a challenge for you. Are you ready? Now, excuse me, 2 seconds. All right, the challenge is print off the graph and practice this, and then post a picture to the PPD Puppy Love Crochet group. Now, if you're not in the group, you just have to answer 3 questions. We make sure you love crochet, you love puppies, and you love yarn or something. And then you can post your pictures to the group. I love to see the work that you do. And if it isn't perfect, don't panic. Practice. Because remember, practice makes confidence. So I'm going to let you go, and I want to thank you for doing this live crochet together with me. It was lots of fun. And I'm going to finish up that orange one, and then I'm going to make another one, so I'll have a set of 4. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Have a fantastic week.